Hello and welcome back to Tanya. So just a brief introduction. When one of the praises that I give and many other would certainly give to Tanya, the book of Tanya, is that it is a manual for life. It's giving you instructions how to deal with life and how to behave, really, and how to be a person, how to overcome struggles and so on and so forth. And this is a chapter that highlights that very much. This chapter will teach us how to live life. What is the proper way to live life? And not only what are we able to do, but what should we do? Especially psychologically, people have sometimes traumas and emotional issues per se. And this chapter is going to go into what do we have control of, what part of ourselves can we control, and what part of ourselves must we control. Perek Yud Bet, chapter 12. Benoni hu. So, coming from the discussion that we defining the wicked man, which is the lower level, the Tzadik, the righteous man, which is the higher level. We're defining now what is the Benoni, the middle level. Olam ein hara gover kol kach lichbosh et ha'ir ketana v'hitlabish beguf lehachtio. That the evil never overpowers so much that it will conquer the small city. As we said, refers to the body, to come into the body to cause it to sin. Dehainu, sheshlosha levushe nefesh habehamit, shemachshav dibuch u'maise, shemitzad haklipa ein govrim bo al nefesh ha'elohit lihitlabish beguf b'moach ובפה ובשאר רמ"ח איברים להחטיאם ולטמם חס ושלום. That means that the three garments, forms of expression of the animal soul, which are thought, speech, and action, that comes from the side that conceals God, does not overcome the godly soul to express in the thought, in the body, in the mind, in the mouth, and in the rest of the 248 limbs, to cause them to sin and to cause them to become impure or defiled, which we said means doing something that is against God, or really that doesn't even have God in mind. God forbid. So this person, that is the Benoni, who is the ideal model for every single person, and especially, of course, we're specifically talking about Jews, for every single Jew, is that the evil in the animal soul that doesn't do things for the sake of God never has control of the thought or the speech or the action. And it never expresses itself in the brain or in the mouth or in the rest of the limbs of the body to do anything, to speak or to think that is not for the sake of God. Rak shlosha levushe nefesh ha'elohit הם לבדם מתלבשים בגוף, שמחשבה, דיבור ומעשה של תרי"ג מצוות התורה. Instead, the three garments, forms of expression of the godly soul, alone express themselves in the body, which are the thought, speech, and action of the 613 commandments of the Torah. And the godly soul prevails at all times over the animal soul, and it always has the dominion and control of the thought, speech, and action to do things that persist and pertain to one of the commandments in the Torah, which would be for the sake of God. Velo avar aveira miyamav, velo yavor leolam, velo nikra alav shem rasha, afilu shah achat, verega echad kol yamav. And he never, this ideal person, never transgressed a sin in his days, nor will he transgress in the future. And he was not named a wicked man, even 1 moment and 1 second all of his days. So how can this be? The question arises, this is something from the Rebbe, how can the Benoni be the ideal model for every one of us if one of us may have sinned in the past or may come to sin in the future? We see that right over here explicitly, a Benoni has no connection to sin. So how can there be something achievable? And the answer is that when we say that he never sinned in the past or he won't ever sin in the future, it doesn't mean that literally he never sinned and never will sin. It means the place where he is holding now, if he went through the circumstances that he was in the past, the trials and tribulations that he was in the past, to have temptations to sin, in the state he's currently in, he would overcome those trials and tribulations. And if he went back to that moment of sin, or he went in the future to that moment of sin, he would not come to sin because of his strength of the godly soul and the thought, speech, and action that he has to overcome any trials and tribulations that could potentially come about. And that is what we mean that he was never called a wicked man. That means a potential wicked man. It might be that in the past he did give in to the animal soul in thought, speech, and action and was called a wicked man, or it may be that he'll do it in the future. But at the moment that he's in right now, the stature of strength of the godly soul that he has over the thought, speech, and action currently, if he was in such a situation in the past or the future, he wouldn't come to be called a wicked man. Ach, mahut ve'atzmut nefesh ha'elohit, shen esech bechinoteha, lo lehen levadan hamelucha v'hamemshala be'ir ketana. So that is now in regard to the 3 forms of expression of thought, speech, and action. But the essence of the godly soul, what is the godly soul? At its very core that we've learned is the 10 levels of intellect and emotions. They don't have complete control and authority in the small city, in the body. Ki'im bi'iti mizumanim. Only temporarily does the godly soul's intellect and emotions have control. Kema, for example, what would be a time when the Benoni's godly soul's intellect and emotions have control in the body? Bishat kriyat Shema v'tfila, in the time when he is reading the Shema prayer and praying. Shehi shat mochin de gadlut lemaila. That is the time of a open and broad mind above. That means that in the higher realms there is a certain shining of capability given to the person that is praying. At the time of prayer, at the time of reciting Shema and the time of prayer, there's an extra capability for intellect. So at such a time, when there's this extra help from above, V'gam lemata, hishat hakoshech lekol adam, and below as well, the person, this is a time when the person puts effort. And any man, any person, any Jew puts effort in his intellect. Sha'az, because at that time, again, of reciting Shema and prayer, mikashech chochma bina dat shelo, he connects his three parts of the intellect, chochma bina das, la Hashem, to God. What does that mean? That he's connecting it to God. Laha'amik da'ato bigdulat ein sof baruch hu, to deepen and really focus on and connect his mind in the greatness of the Ein Sof, blessed be He, which is a reference to God. Ule'ochech et ha'ahava, and through that awaken the love, kirish be'esh, like a flaming fire, bechalal hayamini shebelibo, in the right side of his heart, l'dafka bo b'kiyum haTorah u'mitzvoteha. To what does that love come about to? The outcome, the practical outcome is that it causes to fulfill the Torah and its commandments, me'ahava, out of love. Shezehu inyan hamevuach b'kriyat Shema de'oraita. That this is the thing that is explained. The idea of love, as it says in the reciting of Shema, which is a Torah commandment, and as it says over there, ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, it says love God. So over there the stress is love. Ubirchoteha, and that is the same content of its blessings, before it and after it. Shehen midirabanan, which those blessings are rabbinically ordained. Henachana l'kriyum akriyat Shema. L'kriyum akriyat Shema, they are a preparation for the fulfillment of Shema, which, like we said, is the idea of loving God, a feeling of open love for God. That is what happens at the time of Kriyat Shema. As we will explain in another place, which refers, if I'm not mistaken, to chapter 49 of Tanya. To awaken the love. Oh, sorry, I missed my place. Va'az harash bechalal hasmoli kafufu bate letov. Then the evil in the left side of the heart is surrendered and subjugated to the good. Hamitpashat bechalal hayamini, that extends and expresses itself in the right side of the heart. Mechochma bina dat shebemoach, that is an outcome of the three parts of intellect of the mind, which are connected to the greatness of God Almighty. Now, this is the time where the Benoni has the opportunity to become like a tzaddik. Like we mentioned earlier, a tzaddik is someone who has such a emotional love for God, love and also awe of God, that it spills from the right side of the heart, which is the godly soul's headquarters in the heart, over to the left side of the heart, which is the animal's headquarters to subjugate the animal soul. That is something that the tzaddik has accomplished. And the Benoni has the ability to do the very same, just it's temporary for the Benoni. It happens once a day, or maybe more than once, but at the time of reciting Shema and prayers is the time that this would happen to the Benoni, which is again the ideal person. Aval acher tefillah. But after the prayer, bistalkut hamochin de gadlut, ein sof baruch hu, when the great, broad intellect about the greatness of God is removed, harei hacha chozer v'neyoch b'chalal hasmoli u'metayva tayva l'tayvot olam hazeh v'tanukav. Then, once that thinking about the greatness of God ends, after the prayer, the evil that was subjugated at that time reawakens in the left side of the heart, and it begins again to continue developing desires for all kinds of materialistic desires and pleasures of this world. So now, here's the thing. The animal soul is in the heart. It's strong. And it's desiring in the heart emotions for things that are material, for things that are not for the sake of God. So, what should this person do? What does this person have control over? All right, let's say someone, this is very practical. Let's say someone has a certain emotional issue. Let's say they get angry a lot. Or let's say they get depressed a lot. Or let's say they have other kinds of emotional, social, maybe, whatever the example might be. And they can't overcome it. And the Tanya is telling us that it's very possible that that will be the case. And they'll feel those emotions in the left side of the heart. Then, what are they to do? רק מפני שלא לא לבדו משפט המלוכה והממשל בעיר אינו יכול להוציא תאוותו מכוח אל הפועל להתלבש באיברי הגוף במעשה דיבור ומחשבה ממש. So the only thing that is holding the person, this Benoni, back from acting on those emotions is that he doesn't alone have the say and the authority and the rule in the body, which is the city. Therefore, he is not able to bring out that emotion and that desire from potential to actuality, to come into the limbs of the body in action, speech, or thought, literally. So, a person, albeit he might have no control over his emotions, and his emotions are flaming, he has control over his thought, speech, and action. That the emotion doesn't come out into an actual thought, and into an actual speech, and into an actual emotion. For example, to think deeply about materialistic desires and delights. How to fulfill the lusts and desires of his heart. So what is the reason that a person has control over his thought, speech, and action? Because hamoach shalit al halev, the mind rules the heart. as it says in the Zohar, in the portion of Pinchas, betul dato, naturally, from creation, from birth, v'teva yitzirato, from the nature of his existence, of his being. Shekach notzach ha'adam, because this is how man was created. Betul dato, from his youth, from his beginning. Shekol adam yachol birtzono shebemocho lihitapek v'limshol beruach ta'avato shebelibo shelo lemalot mishalot libo b'maise dibur u'machshava. Because any person has the ability with the thought, the desire, and the desire in his thought to withstand and control his spirit of desires and emotions of the heart, not to fulfill the seekings of the heart in action, speech, or thought. Ulahasiach daito legamri mitayvot libo el hahefech legamri, and to remove his thought completely from the desires of his heart to the complete opposite. This is something that is natural for a human being, to have control over his heart. It might be that one doesn't have control over his emotions. He gets angry, he gets full of desires, he gets maybe fears, traumas maybe, and so on. But to actually fulfill and to bring about those things, the mind naturally has the control and the capacity to do that. And that is what everyone must do, to control their heart. As you see that someone can change from, by means of the mind, from love for something to hate of that thing, and back, and vice versa, from hate of something to love of that thing, through the power of the mind. Ubifrat el tzad hakdusha, and especially to the side of holiness. Kidichtiv, as it says in the verse, V'ra'iti sheyesh yitchon lechochma min hasichlut ki yitchon ha'och min hachoshech. I've seen that there is advantage of wisdom over folly, like the advantage of light over darkness. That's a verse. What does that mean? Pirush. Kemo sheha'och yesh lo yitchon v'shlita memshala lechoshech shema'at or gashmi doche harbe min hachoshech shenitcha mimenu me'ela v'me'mele. Same way that light has an advantage and control over the darkness, in the sense that a little bit of light physically pushes away much darkness that automatically goes away. Kach, that's the same way that nitche mimele sichlut harbe shel klipa v'sitchachora shebechol ol hosmoli, that is pushed away automatically great foolishness of the side that conceals God and is other than God in the left side of the heart. So that is folly. Anything from the animal soul is foolishness. Anything that is not for the sake of God is foolishness. As the sages of blessed memory said, that a sin is only transgressed because a person acts foolishly. So that means that anything pertaining to sin, anything that has to do with the realm of sin, that is not for the sake of God is foolishness. So that is easily pushed away. Because of the wisdom of the godly soul in the mind, in the brain. Which the godly soul's desire is to be the sole commander, the sole ruler on the city, the body, to express in its three garments that we mentioned, in all of the body, as we mentioned, which are the thought, speech, and action of the 613 commandments of the Torah, as we mentioned now in this chapter and as well as the previous chapters. So in other words, not only does a person have the capacity, because of the power in their mind, to shift emotions and to shift their thought, speech, and action from one extreme to another extreme, from love to hate, from hate to love, but a person also has the capacity. But how much more so when it comes to shifting from foolishness to wisdom? So that means anything from the animal soul is foolishness. And the mind, which is from the godly soul, is wisdom, easily pushes away any foolishness from the heart. Just like light pushes away darkness. Now, so now this is the difference between a Benoni, an ideal person, and a Tzadik, as follows. Now, nevertheless, he's not called a Tzadik whatsoever. Mipnei sheyitchon hazeh ashech le'or nefesh ha'elohit al ha'choshech v'sichlut shel ha'klipa hanitcha b'meile eino ela b'shlosha levushea haniskachim le'il. Because this advantage that the light of the godly soul has on the darkness and foolishness of the side that conceals God, that is pushed away easily and automatically, is only in the three garments mentioned: thought, speech, and action. However, it is not overpowering and controlling the essence and the core of the godly soul. Does not have control of the essence and core of the evil and the side that conceals God. Ki mahut v'atzmuta shel hanefesh habehamit shemahaklipa shebechalel hasmoli lo nitche klal mimkoma b'Benoni. Because the essence of the main part, which is as we said before, what's the essence? The essence is the intellect and emotions of the animal soul from the side that conceals God. In the left side of the heart, doesn't go away at all from its place by this Benoni, which is the ideal model for everyone. Achar hatfila, maybe during the prayer it does, like we said, but not after the prayer. She'ein rish be'esh avat Hashem bitkalut libo bechalal hayamini. When at a time when the love of God that is like a flaming fire is not there and shining and revealing in the heart and the right side of the heart. Ki im tocho ratzuf ahava mesuteret. Instead, so we said that the right side of the heart is the headquarters in the heart of the godly soul. So if it's not shining, then where is the godly soul there? So the answer is it's hidden. There's something called the hidden love. So the right side of the heart in general, if there's not shining love, there's a hidden love there. Shehi ahava hativit shebenefesh haelohit kemo shekatuv lekaman, which is a natural love of the godly soul for God, as we're going to mention later on, I believe in chapter 18 and 19, that we say over there that the same way fire flickers constantly and it wants to leave the wick in order to go up and be consumed in its source where it comes from, so too the godly soul constantly flickers like this candle and wants to go up to God, its source. And that's the idea of love. It constantly wants to be one with God. So that we're going to mention later on. But that feeling of constant love of God and natural love is always in the godly soul, in the right side of the heart. It's only that it's hidden. So at a time like this, when that love and love of God is hidden, emotions for God are hidden, of the godly soul. V'azai yachol lihiyot sichlu takasi l'hara b'itkalut libo b'chalel hasmoli l'itavo taiva l'chol inyane gashmiut olam hazeh ben beheter ben be'isuch chas v'shalom. So then, after prayer, after when the emotions of the godly soul are not shining, can be the foolishness of the fool, which is the evil, open and shining in the left side of the heart, to have desires for all kinds of physical things of this world, whether they are permitted or forbidden, God forbid. Ki'ilu lo hitpalel klal, as if he never prayed at all. Ela shebedavar isuch eino ole bedaito la'asot ha'isuch befoel mamash chas v'shalom. So the thing is now, where does the Benoni have control? If those desires are constantly flaming and shining in the left side of the heart, so that would be that forbidden things would not enter his mind to do them practically. God forbid. Ela hirhure aveira hakashim me aveira. Sinful thoughts, which are more severe than sins. As we mentioned earlier, the reason because those sinful thoughts bring a person to sin. That's why it's more severe. Yicholim lifol la'alot lemocho lebalbelo mitorah va'avoda, by this Benoni, by the ideal man, those sinful thoughts are able to come up and have an effect and disturb his mind from Torah and service of God, which actually I think refers to prayer. Maybe not only prayer, but in general, can disturb him. With those thoughts, sinful thoughts, disturb him. U'kamayma Chazal, Gimel averot ein adam nitzol mehen bechol yom. Hiuchu avera v'yont v'yadachulu, as the sages of blessed memory said, that there are 3 sins that no one, and that would come to include this Benoni. A tzaddik, I think, is out of this list, but maybe not. I'm not sure, but for sure, a Benoni is not saved from 3 sins every day, and they are sinful thoughts, not being able to fully be deliberate and concentrate in prayer, and number 3, to have a dust of slander and forbidden talk. So those are 3 sins that everyone, including a Benoni, is not saved from. Now, it doesn't mean that he actually does a sin. Doesn't mean that he actually starts thinking about it, or he actually starts speaking it, or he actually starts doing something wrong. Instead, it means that immediately, once the thought starts disturbing him, as we're going to see, he pushes it away. רק שלזה מועיל הרשימו במוחין ויראת השם ואהבתו המסותרת בחלל הימיני להתקבח ולשלוט על הרע הזה המתהווה תאווה. So now, for this helps the remainders in his mind and an awe of God in his heart. An awe of God and the hidden love that we mentioned in the right side of his heart. That means that he still has a little bit, maybe the shining is not there, maybe he's not constantly having a shining intellect about God, maybe he's not constantly having shining emotions about God, but for sure there's a trace of it, and that could be from the prayers that he prayed earlier or from the hidden love. Thanks to that trace, he's able to overpower and control the evil, this evil that we said refers to sinful thoughts, which has the desire, which is desiring things, not to have any control and rule in the city, which is the body. And this trace of awe and love of God allows him to have control so that the evil, the desire, does not express itself from potential to actuality. To come into the limbs of the body. Even in the mind alone, to think about the sin, to think about the evil. He does not have control and rule to think about, God forbid. The evil does not have that ability and that control to do such a thing. In the will of the mind, to accept something in his desire, God forbid. This evil thought that comes up automatically from heart to mind, like we mentioned. Ella miyad shbaliyatu l'sham dochehu b'shtei yadayim. Instead, immediately, as soon as it comes up, he pushes it away with both of his hands, figuratively speaking. As soon as the sinful thought starts, he immediately gets rid of it. Umasiach daito, and he removes his mind. Miyad sheniskar shehu hiruraz, as soon as he remembers that it's an evil thought. Ve'eino mekablo beratzon, and he does not accept to have the desire, afilu leharirbo, even to think about it, beratzon, in his thought, in his desires. And he doesn't even think about it, he doesn't even let himself think about it, but how much more so he doesn't let himself think about actually doing it, God forbid. Or even to speak about it. Because someone who thinks to want something is called a wicked man, like we said before. Someone that lets the evil overpower his thought is called wicked. At that time, the Benoni eino rasha afilu sha'achat le'olam, and the Benoni is holding at a status that he is not a wicked man even once, at one moment, forever. So, in other words, the minute he doesn't have control over his emotions. His desires might be going berserk. His left side of his heart must be feeling crazy emotions. Maybe not, but maybe. And he has no control to actually have no control over that left side of his heart. It could be feeling all kinds of emotions, all kinds of depression and sadness and feeling down and feeling angry and feeling all kinds of negative emotions, or even positive emotions, but they're not for the sake of God. But the minute that those emotions enter his mind, he pushes them away with both hands. What does that mean? So not to push them away at all means that you let those thoughts enter the mind. And that's what the person does. Pushing them away with one hand means that you're saying, no, I'm not going to give in to the emotions right now, but come back later. Pushing those emotions away with both hands means get away. I'm never speaking to you. I'm never thinking about you emotions. And where does he have the power to do that? From the trace of love and awe that he has in his heart of God. That gives him the power. That the evil does not come into his thought, speech, and action. So two things, that is between man and his creator, man and God, that we mentioned. But also in regards to things between a person and his friend. As soon as comes from his heart to his mind any form of animosity or hatred, God forbid, or any kind of jealousy or anger or grudge and similar, he does not receive them at all in his mind and in his desire, to desire them. The adrab, on the contrary, the mind rules and has control on the spirit in his heart, to do the complete opposite, to act with his friend, with abundant kindness and cherishing and love. So that's the complete opposite. He was feeling in his heart an emotion of hatred, God forbid, or jealousy or grudge towards someone else. So comes his mind that has the capacity to control those emotions. And not only has the capacity, but must control those emotions, and says, I'm not thinking about it. And on the contrary, I'm going to not think, speak, or act on it. I'm going to think, speak, and act in the opposite manner, to be extra kind to this person. Mudat lo lispol mimenu, to withstand and have patience from him, consciously, ad ketzei ha'achachon, to the last extent, till his patience is up, meaning forever. He's always going to have patience. Velo lichos chas v'shalom, not get angry, God forbid. V'gam shelo l'shalom lo kafalo chas v'shalom, and also not to pay back what the person did, God forbid. And on the contrary, ligmol chayavim tovot, to act with good to those that don't deserve good, to those that deserve other than good, to be good to them either way. As the Zohar says, to learn from Joseph how he acted with his brothers. Joseph was sold to slavery with his brothers. They were not nice to him. And I'm sure that someone in that situation would have felt very serious emotions of hatred, God forbid, and grudge. Yet, what did Joseph do? And what should we learn from him? That even when a person has such feelings, has the ability and the requirement to think, speak, and act in the opposite manner to that very person who did that to you. And to be kind, and to speak kind, and to be loving to that person. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.